I thought this was a fun idea from our next gen to have a food truck, and I went through 9 different ones to find Chuck and Billy. So hopefully you had great food, and we're running a little bit behind schedule, but I know we're going to have a great night and have lots of information. So thank you all for coming. I'm the executive director. I'm Catherine Wygant Fawcett. We are a nonprofit that helps family businesses succeed. So we have a number of different areas and things. Tonight, I'd like to thank Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Hudson University for sponsoring us. Russell is fabulous and puts us online. We are recording this tonight, so our family members who weren't able to come can come later. So I was going to say, help yourself to the classic sliders, but you have, so that's good. And for about an hour, we're going to have the panel, and then we're going to do some breakout sessions, but we'll see how things go with our time frame here. We have over 35 programs that we do, and on the front table, we put our calendar. This is just for the second half of the year. So there are, we have a couple more coming up. And one of them is, the next program is on Monday, November 9th, with Chalmers Insurance, just before Election Day. And we have Dottie, and Jim, and Marty here, and Steve Cody. So they are all going to be hosting us. And we decided we would have sugar and spice and everything nice before the elections. And we're going to have many likes, sauces and seasonings. And so that'll be kind of a barbecue thing. And then, because Dottie said that Chalmers likes desserts, we're going to have yummy sweets and desserts. And then they're going to tell you about their ship experience. So that'll be fun. And then we have tonight, we have Lindsay Skelly from Ice Cream. We have Dottie Chalmers Cutter from Chalmers Insurance. We have Kim Wallach here from the Wallach Group, and Joe Proposa from the Proposa Tile and Flooring Center. And these you might have seen. I just got a special button tonight that apparently was given out BC before Catherine. And Janet has one, and I think Katie has one. There you are. She has her button on. And Katie is kind of our trio for our next year group. And we do peer advisory groups that happen 6 times a year, and they meet facilitated by a coach with Janet. And we have done them for 2 years now. So we started with one group, the group wanted to do it again, then we had another group that wanted to come in, and we're looking at how many groups we might do next year. So we are going to have a next-gen social mixer on Thursday, December 8th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Sebago Brewing Company. So we invite current and prospective next-gens to come to that and learn about it. And now I will turn it over to Janet. Thank you.
Can everyone hear, first of all, because we have the mic option? Yeah. Everyone in the back too? Great. Well, we thought it would be a little more casual without the mic, but if you need it, holler. I think everyone's got big, loud voices. First thing I wanted to ask is, I was going to say my name, Catherine said, my name is Janet, and I'm not running for any political office. So based on the debate last night, I thought this has a feel of no debating going on tonight. How many of you actually work in a family business at this point? Raise them high, please. Great, that's great. And how many of you have a family connection to a family business but don't work in it? So 3 more, great. Obviously, there's a large percentage of people here that are connected directly to family businesses, other people that probably provide services to family business. First of all, we're going to do some fun facts along the way here. The panelists are ready for this, but the first fun fact is, and those of you that know the answers to this, if you could keep it to yourself, so it's kind of a fun guessing game. This person, one of the panelists, spent a year and a half living in New Zealand. Anybody have any idea who that might be? Dottie? Yeah. Correct. Good job, Tia. All right. So I just want to give a brief introduction about myself because I want the spotlight to be on our panelists because they're the stars of the show. But I just, you've got some background on the flyer of my background. I grew up in a family business, worked outside the family business first, and then came back to work in the family business. I've had a lot of education, shall we say, training around family business topics. And my passion these days is to work with young people to help them find meaningful careers that match their unique gifts and their talents. So I'm working with high school, college, 20, early 30s, trying to help them make good choices on the front end of their careers so that, as we all know, lots of people get into jobs that they wish they hadn't. And so my family business background really kind of ties in with that, and being the peer advisory group facilitator has been an amazing privilege, and that's the best way I can describe it. It's what I learned from these young people. I mean, I have my own experience of what it was like working in a family business, but times are different today and things have changed a lot, but their ideas and the things that they're doing in their family businesses are just really dynamic, and I'm really happy that we put this together so that they could share some of those thoughts with you. And just to give you a little bit of background about the peer advisory group, it was a concept that I kind of put together and proposed it to the IFOB based on experiences that I had at the Wharton program, Wharton School for Family Business, the Northeastern University Program for Family Business, and UNH, along with the Family Firm Institute program. And I just felt as a next generation member, the opportunities that I had to sit with other next generation members and share thoughts and ideas privately without outside people involved was just a really, really powerful experience. And it helped me more times than not. So I'm glad that the peer advisory group is expanding. I've also been on the board at the IFOB from the beginning. I was on for 19 years altogether. And then my other hat that I wear is I am still involved with my family through a family foundation, and I'm a trustee for them, and a lot of the same issues are still in play, believe it or not. So my 91-year-old father, who still wants to be in charge, makes life very interesting. So how this topic came about, I just want to give you a little bit of background. Lindsay and Katie and I were way back talking about putting the next generation together as a separate subgroup, and started doing some open programs, and we would have some breakout sessions, and people started getting together, talking about topics that were of interest to them. And the feedback that we've gotten recently from some of those sessions that have gone on, it's been 4 years, I think, since we had the first meeting, is always around leadership. There's always comments on our feedback forms about learning more about leadership. We all know that it's a subject that you could go on for months and years probably to talk about. So we thought we would ask those that were on our peer advisory group. Joe's a recent member, recent addition to the group, because each of them are working with a different leadership coach, which we also thought was kind of interesting. It will give us different perspectives, and with the realization that not one size fits all. So I think it's a very personal decision that each person has to make, and hopefully they'll tell us how they went through that. And we're looking for more ideas today that can be generated into future programs for next year, or beyond for that matter. So Catherine said a little bit about, we're going to do the self-introductions in a minute. We've got some predetermined questions, and please feel free to ask questions as you go along. As we go along, we will have time at the end, but I think it's much more interesting to talk about things as they come up within limits. We'll try to keep that going. Did you need me? Okay.
I need to go get a food truck.
Oh. And then we'll do a wrap up and summary at the end, and where to find leadership coaches. And if we have time, we'll do the breakout session from 6:30 to 7. Again, that's going to be really focused on the next gen participants that are here today to do some peer-to-peer networking. So, our second fun fact of the day, who do you think has a dream of opening a wine bar in Maine? You don't know the answer? You don't?
No.
You want to make a
No,
guess?
no, I was saying that.
Oh, you do, okay.
Who doesn't?
We'll put you together with the person that wants to. You know, figure it out.
We take a stab with the one who's going to.
Good reasoning. Very good. It's Kim, yes, absolutely. So, I have a definition that I pulled up on what leadership coaching is, and I just thought I would read it. It's fairly short. It's an experiential and individualized leader development process that builds a leader's capability to achieve short and long-term organizational goals. It's conducted through one-on-one and/or group interactions, driven by data from multiple perspectives and based on mutual trust and respect. The organization, an executive, and the executive coach work in partnership to achieve maximum impact. So we will get into resources and how one finds leadership coaching, but the things I pulled up showed some online classes you can take to learn more about leadership coaching. Georgetown University had a certificate in leadership program in their continuing education department. Michigan State University had an 8-week class, and then obviously local resources that we'll be talking more about today. So I think without further ado, we will get into the questions. And the other thing to remember, these are all executive level managers, and they've all taken very different routes to get here. I thought she was going to have the flyers on your tables, and maybe we'll hand them out. But hopefully you all saw the flyers on each of them, because it's very interesting how they, the mentoring that they've gone through, some of the other questions that we asked that aren't coming right to me right now, but we'll get those to you because it is fascinating. Okay, so let's do the background on each of you and just keep it very short and brief. And if you want to start with what your favorite Gifford's ice cream is, that would be
Yes, please.
a good place to start. Dottie, why don't you start?
Sure. My favorite Gifford's ice cream is Moose Tracks.
Yeah.
But when you hear Lindsay's, her answer is very sexy, and I wish that my answer was going to be as great as hers is. But I'm like, that is a girl's in the ice cream business. It's a good answer. It's a lot. She's a stick. So Dottie Chalmers-Penner, I am Vice President of Operations for Chalmers Insurance Group, which is my family's business. We've been established for 4 generations and 159 years. So insurance was pretty much the only thing I really knew, because it was in my blood, as a lot of my friends will say. I was kind of born into it. But if you had asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be, that I wanted to be an insurance agent, I would have said no. I wanted to be a pediatrician, until I had a very love-hate relationship with Biology 101 at Bowdoin College, and kind of changed courses there. And so if I can't pass Bio 101, there's no way I'm going to pass organic chemistry. So I switched gears to psychology, which was a better fit for me. And after a brief stint abroad in New Zealand, I came and joined my family's business and started my way kind of as a agent, right up with a book of business, and had different roles and just kept working my way up. And now I'm handling 9 locations and about 85 employees in all areas of operations. And in some HR, dabble in that a little bit too at times. That's the other thing when you're in the family business, you wear many hats. So I definitely dabble a little HR. I just helped complete a brand new building, project manager, to add that to the resume too. But you do a little bit of everything when you're in a family-owned business. That's me.
Gifford's ice cream would be peanut butter pie because I like anything that's peanut butter with ice cream. And I'm the vice president, and I manage our commercial division for Composite Tile and Floor Covering Center. As the vice president, we have our residential division and our Old Port Specialty Tile company, and we just purchased a new company which is called Composite Concrete Services, which was a company in Lewiston that does epoxy, sealed concrete, refinishes concrete, different types of floors that we haven't done before. So I'm really kind of starting to get more involved in that, overseeing that transition. I went to college, Bryan University, and worked for the Providence Bruins after college briefly, and then worked for a carpet manufacturer for a few years. I'll get into more detail on that stuff as we talk, so I'll keep it brief now. Then got into the family business as an assistant project manager for a commercial division and just kind of worked my way up in the company. And now overseeing, like I said, the 4 different divisions with the help of my wonderful sisters, Katie and Tia, who works in residential, and Katie at the Old Port. Excited to talk about my leadership coach tonight, because it really is something that's been great in my development and the development of our company.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Skilling, Gifford Skilling, and I also, oh wait, my favorite ice cream flavor, just kidding. 3 scoops, a scoop of mint chocolate chips, a scoop of black raspberry, and a scoop of orange sherbet. Yes, all together on a waffle cone with rainbow sprinkles. See?
Isn't that a good answer?
I'm not pregnant. When I'm not pregnant, it's not that. I also went to Bryant with Joe and graduated from Rhode Island. And from an early age, I dreamed of being kind of a secretary for Giffords. And that was my dream job, to take the orders. So I used to play office, and my dad would bring home extra office supplies and whatnot. But anyway, so here I am today. My title is CEO, but we're a family that's not really big on titles, like Dottie said. I mean, this morning I was trying to fix a toilet at the office. I mean, it can range from anything. You do what you need to do to get the job done and make the place tick. So I worked my way up. I worked in the finance office, assistant to the controller. I ran the sales because there was a void in marketing and had no clue what I was doing. And moved in different roles and became the GM, and then now I'm here today as the CEO. So I'm excited for tonight. I feel like I can learn more from the other panelists and from you folks too. So welcome.
Okay, hi. I'm Kimberly Wallach-Garrett. I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Wallach Group. And for those that haven't heard of the Wallach Group, we are an independent business owner of Dunkin' Donuts, and we also manage a bunch of commercial real estate in Maine, New Hampshire, and upstate New York. And I am the daughter of Ed Wallach, and Ed founded the company back in 1975, where he first purchased his horrible location on Congress Street that many still remember, apparently, to try and turn that location around that eventually was taken by eminent domain and turned into a state park. So you could pretty much say that I was born on the floor of a Dunkin' Donuts, probably particularly the one on Washington Ave and Allen Ave in Portland. And I grew up in the business, and after taking orders at the drive-thru at 2 years old and collecting change underneath the donut counters, I eventually did grow up. I worked as a crew member, shift leader, and then I started baking in the stores for many years through high school. And then eventually I went to college and I said, see ya. My dad always pushed me to actually not be part of the business, so I did exactly that. I actually went to Babson College for entrepreneurship, and then I went to Emerson College for a film degree, ironically, with the thought that I would go into the production of advertising because I really enjoy the marketing and sales perspective of things. Moved out to LA. I worked into the film industry for a few years, and after a couple of years I decided that, wow, this is not for me. So I kind of reverted back into the business, marketing, and sales side, and I went into the wine industry for about 5 to 7 years. And I basically worked for small wine labels, rebranding them and trying to increase their visibility for their prospective sales pitches. So that's what I did for a while. And then my husband was in the film industry as a cameraman, and he went away for 5 months. I decided to quit my job and move back to LA. I taught some horseback riding for a while because that's my personal passion. And moved back to Maine for the summer, and I never went back. So my father convinced me after 15 years, the company turned into something completely different. From when I left, it was about 10 stores, and now we're about to open our 97th location. So he basically built me an office and said, figure out where you fit. So I spent about a year trying to figure out where that was, and I worked my way into operations and optimization, marketing and sales, and then now I have assumed all operations for 3 states. And that's kind of my story today. I sit on a couple of the brand advisory councils for Dunkin' brands, which has been really eye-opening for me, and seeing things from a marketing and sales perspective from a global level is really fun and a great opportunity for a local business owners. That's
Great. Thank you all very much. One more fun fact, and then we're going to know who the last one belongs to. But this person says that the favorite. Okay, we're coming back to it. I can reword that one. Oh. Okay. The first question for the panelists, and I'm going to ask Lindsay to take this one first. When you first entered the family business full-time, what type of leadership experience did you have from either high school, college, or your first jobs that you felt that you
Not much. I didn't have much, no. I mean, in high school, I was, captain of the soccer and the track team. My sophomore year of high school, my aunt was on the Skowhegan Chamber board, and they had an issue where the executive director needed to take kind of a leave of absence. So they asked if that summer I could run the chamber. So I had no idea what I was doing. I was a sophomore in high school. I mean, I wanted to be going to the beach with my friends or something, but so I got thrown into that role and ran that until the executive director came back before school started again. I've coached soccer and track through rec teams, involved in various clubs, National Honor Society, kind of the buddy system. My first job besides the chamber and outside of the family business, was working at Deb, the clothing company. Yes, Deb, yes. Which was an experience, and with my personality, I'm very something. I'm a challenge. It was an unprofessional atmosphere, and my manager, so I felt like I was trying to groom my manager to act more professionally, which was an interesting situation. So
you learn what not to do.
Exactly. Yes, I called my father and said, "Dad, this is crazy. Can you believe this?" So, anyways, that's kind of some of the experience, and then pretty much right out of college, I joined the Institute for Family and Business Board, and so I've been on that for 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years.
That's
6 years.
nice.
Yeah. I've been on it for 6 years, which has been wonderful, and that's really helped me learn a lot and gain some confidence. And yeah.
Great,
So-
great. Thank you.
Well, in high school, I was the captain of the football team and the lacrosse team. I just want everybody to know that. Yeah. No, I guess so. I guess that was my first leadership experience, and so that was good. Moving on to college, I went to college with Lindsay, so I can't really say too much, but it was more of a life experience. It wasn't really an educational experience. She was more an education.
I was the nerd.
Yeah, but I know when my frat got in trouble, I would be the one that would like have to have an alcohol awareness class or deal with the RA to kind of get us through the pain. So that was leadership, I guess, which it really was an experience. After college, like I said, I briefly worked for the Providence Bruins doing ticket sales, and then went to a carpet manufacturer, which was Bentley Mills. And I guess for me, it wasn't really leadership myself, leading other people at that time, but our manager with the Providence Bruins was a good example of what not to do. He'd sit in the middle of the room while we all sat around the edge of the room in cubicles and made phone calls trying to sell ticket packages. And it was, he'd come, why not me to make more phone calls? It was a weird environment. And so it created a team, but it was a team that was against him and trying to figure out ways to look like we were making phone calls without actually making phone calls. So that was a good lesson of what not to do. When I worked for the carpet manufacturer, I had the president of the company, who was out in California. He was actually from New York, and he was like a stereotypical New York businessman, ruled with fear, very inspirational though, and people would like run through a wall for him. So that was kind of a leadership style that was interesting to see. My boss in Boston was kind of a very honest guy, laid back, kind of like myself, and he taught me, it's do what you think's right, and you're going to be faced with some weird decisions in business that might not seem right, but stay true to yourself, tell the truth, and all that good stuff. And it really is. It's a good lesson in business, because it can get things can get a little out of your comfort zone sometimes. My boss in New York was another stereotypical New York shrewd businesswoman. She was very, very disciplined, but very dedicated to the company. And I was scared out of my mind of her. And then my parents, coming into the family business, kind of not just saying this because they are my parents, but all the good I learned from these people over the years, I kind of saw in my parents, not just in business, but growing up too. So it wasn't so much me leading ahead of my job, but just kind of learning from other people's leadership styles.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to take it a different spin on it, and what I'll say is that yes, I was captain of tennis and field hockey, but I think what really helped me was I learned at a very early age some important soft skills, and from my father, and my sister's here, and she'll agree. Some of the basics but really important things that he taught me young would have been to make eye contact with people, and to have a firm handshake. So I cannot stand it when I get the little clammy handshakes from people. So it's eye contact, it's firm handshake, and look people in the eye when you're talking to them. And every time as a child, Marty, myself, my brother, we were out to dinner with my parents, he made us look at the waitress in the eye and order our own food.
That's great.
I mean, when we were, 6, 7, 8, all the way up through, I had to look at the waitress in the eye, and I had to order my own food. And a simple, soft skill like that really, really worked well, because it gave me that ability to make that contact, to be able to speak, whether you're speaking to someone one-on-one or in front of a large crowd. I kind of got that confidence at a very early age. And I think that's it's really helped me to become very comfortable, no matter what kind of audience that I talk in. When I joined Chalmers, and my cousin Jim, who's one of my partners, for probably 9 years, and I've been there for 11, Jim and I were junior managers. We had the junior manager title for, I think, 9 years, and no one really knew what that meant. It was just Donnie and Jim were at the management team, and we were the junior managers. And 9 years later, I'm like, please, can we please drop the junior title now? And so finally, in 2014, we dropped the junior management title, and now we kind of became senior managers. So that was kind of a big moment too, a proud moment. So
Great, thank you. Okay, the next question is that we're going to start with Dottie. Describe your early management experiences in the family business. Give examples of times that it went well and times that it might not have. And at what point did you decide you wanted a leadership coach? And just so everyone knows, I have given them permission if they if there's a particular question that they don't want to answer, they're just going to offer up that they're going to pass. And this is something that we do when we're in our peer advisory groups. So it may happen or it may not, but I just want to let you know.
okay. So I was giving some thought to this question because it's kind of, you're vulnerable, exposing a time that didn't go very well. And I thought of one, and it is cringe-worthy. And you will cringe, and I'm just going to put it out there. But this happened probably 8 years ago, and I was in a staff meeting, and the topic was pay raises. And it happened to be a year that our company didn't do very well, and I think we were struggling. The same time, the economy was like tanking. The cost of gas and heat and oil was skyrocketing, and people were having a hard time genuinely making ends meet. So Chalmers, unfortunately, I think we had just delivered like a very mediocre cost of living raise, or maybe we didn't even give it any. I mean, it wasn't a great raise, and our employees in the meeting were complaining, and I got fed up, and I said something to the effect of, "Will you just stop your complaining, because you're all lucky that you have a job." And then it gets better, or it gets worse. It gets worse. The next day, I go to my office and I have a piece of paper, an article on my desk that a coworker had anonymously put there, and they highlight, and it said it was things you should never tell your things managers should never tell a coworker, and then they highlighted, "You're lucky to have a job." So I think I wanted to hide under my desk at that moment and cringe, and it was painful. But if I could tell myself then what I know now through Coach, is how to be an empathetic listener, and how to just listen, how to let them vent their feelings, their perspective, and how to just let them know that it's okay. I understand times are tough, and I understand that we didn't get pay raises, and I hear you, and I absolutely understand, and I'm sorry. But you don't have to solve the problem. You don't have to have all the answers, but you do have to give them that ear and tell them that you absolutely understand, and let them know that. So, I didn't answer the question clearly. That was my bad story. I do have a good story though. I gotta redeem myself.
After that.
My good story is actually really a collaboration in 2013 with Steve Cody, who's here, who's our president, and Jim Chalmers and myself. We went off-site for a kind of a think tank session behind closed doors. It was just the 3 of us, and we spent the whole day just strategizing and talking about the future, how we saw the future, what we envisioned our own roles to be and evolve into. We talked about organizational structure. We came up with a new structure. We talked about our mission statement, our vision, and our core values. And we came back from that with a lengthy kind of report, and we shared that with my dad because we wanted his buy-in. And we got that pretty easily because, you know, he needed to start thinking about perpetuation and succession. And from there, that kind of set the ball in motion for us to announce that we were going to be transitioning, which happened in 2014, that my dad and my uncle were pretty much elevating to what we've termed balcony. They're on the balcony. They're, you know, some might say of council, some might say snowbirds going to Florida, but we term it in-house as they're on the balcony now, and so.
So did the leadership coach idea come out of that?
So after that strategic plan think tank, and we announced our new organizational changes it was January 2014, where basically we announced that Steve Cody was going to assume the presidency role, which was making history. It was the first time a non-Chalmers family member took over a presidency role. And that my dad and my Bruce were going to the balcony, and Jim and I were dropping the junior managers, and we're elevating to seniors. And then about 4 months into that, the three of us just kind of realized that we needed to learn and we needed coaching. And at that point in time, that's when, largely through Steve's efforts, we started to look for somebody to kind of coach us. Great.
Janet?
Thank you. Yes.
Dottie, I just have a question. To what extent did you get your dad's and your uncle's buy-in to have that closed door session and make some pretty big decisions beforehand?
I know, and I'm trying to think back to what it was specifically. And you know what it probably was that my dad's health was very poor, and it was necessary because he had a very, very serious lung disease and needed a double lung transplant, and he had to start absolutely thinking about his perpetuation plan. So he was, my guess, was probably pushing through Steve more of coaching Steve that, hey, you know, you need to get Jim and Dottie together, and let's start to think about that. So I'm proud of the three of us for doing that, and we remember that day very well. And we kind of all had homework assignment, and we came very prepared to that think tank session. And Steve he was using his coaching skills, and he was writing on chalkboards, and we were holed up in a room at Freiburg Academy, and we had like those big Post-it notes and making all kinds of notes, and I'm scribing it, and it was kind of a monumental moment for us, because we really came out of that with probably 8 pages of how we saw the future for Chalmers and what that looked like.
Great. Good. Kim, did you have anything to add to that one?
Sure. Yeah, I can. Let me go back a little bit. I didn't really elaborate on the first question, which was any kind of prior leadership, and I'll even take it in even different directions. I never had any real leadership prior to me joining the Wallet Group, and I'll kind of elaborate. I was never the captain of anything. I was never chosen I was not the popular girl. I was the quiet observer growing up, and I think right up until I joined maybe the wine industry, I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself to be a leader. And I was always kind of the person that excelled in individual sports, not that I can't play with others. I just had a lot of anxiety of being part of a team and letting a team down. So growing up, I had that to kind of overcome, and hence why I think having a leadership coach was a huge step for me, that I needed to get past that level of anxiety to realize I had certain skills and people looked to me to make decisions and to be inspirational. And I had the ability to do it, but I needed someone to really tell me what I was doing right and what I sucked at, okay, and what I needed to work on. And I think it's important that being a next gener, walking in as the boss's daughter, you come in with a label that you're the boss's daughter, that you have a lot to prove. I had a lot of anxiety about that, and that I needed someone to really push me what I was good at, to try to get the buy-in to keep going, and make that transition. But I will tell you that I think the biggest pinnacle moment, and I'll talk a cringeworthy moment, because this was in my early 20s, and I was all fired up, and I was transitioning into the wine industry, and I was working in a really small family business that was literally out of a soap opera. It was a family that lived in Malibu. Their winery was in the hills of Malibu, gorgeous property right over Zuma Beach, and they filmed movie sets on that property, and it was like the Brady Bunch. The mother was, an ex-Playboy playmate from 1980, and it was wild. I mean, you wouldn't believe this family. So I got hired. I called them one day and I said, listen, I want to go into the wine industry. I'll take whatever position you have available. And they said, actually, we really could use an intern. I'm like, great, fabulous, I'll take it. So I went into that. I worked with one other non-family member who was deemed the director of marketing and sales, who had some wine experience, me with no wine experience, and then the rest of the family who just decided they wanted to be winemakers. And so after a few years of building the business, me and this other person that was a non-family member for a family business that literally had their interests other places, literally, I got really defensive, and I believe I was 24, and I walked into the CEO's office, who literally showed up that day in a helicopter, and I said, I want more than $500 a week or I'm leaving. And he said, okay, you can teach my 14-year-old how to do your job. Oh. And I turned around and I walked out. And I think that was a pinnacle moment for me to realize, where does your leverage lie? Do you really have it? Do you not? Have you proved yourself? He was a very successful businessman, and he still is to this day. I learned a lot by how he treated his employees, but also by the way that interaction went and what I did wrong that day. And I think coming home, I did the complete opposite in entering the family business. I spent probably about a year and a half in that office that my dad built me, just learning the business and not really talking to anybody. I wanted to come in quietly. I didn't want to come in all guns blazing. And I wanted to try and find a way to earn people's respect that have been working for my dad since 1975. And it was scary to me. But I think by doing it that way, it helped my case, and it slowly built my credibility as the changes started happening, and they knew that those changes were things that I was recognizing. And then one day, one of the directors sat down in a review, and I got to sit in on that review that day, and she told my father in front of me that I was the best thing that's ever happened to the company. And that day that's when I felt like, okay, I redeemed myself from the time that I was told to teach a 14-year-old how to do my job. So those are probably my ups and
Great examples. Yeah, thank you.
So describe my early management experience in the family business and ups and downs. So I guess I will say that when I was about 5, a lot of my roles and my different moves in Giffords were me having to either be thrown into a position because of a void, or me throwing myself in because my father became ill, and so I needed to kind of be a kind of a guard for my dad so that he could, be with us today and take care of himself. So when I was about, I think, 25, I had to throw myself in. I was at a board meeting. I mean, this was not a real board. This is a family board, if you know what I mean. So friends on it, interesting. And they had me sit in it just to observe and to scribe for them. And at the table, my father, and uncle were talking to the others and saying, yeah, well, John, my father, his doctor said, you're walking a fine line, you're if you don't slow down and walk away from stress, you're going to kill yourself. And they kept going on like this was just a casual conversation. I heard about it at a board meeting, which wasn't okay with me, but they kept talking and moved on to the next subject, and they weren't going to do anything about it. So I stepped up and said, whoa, we need to just pause for a second so I can digest this information about my father, and what are we going to do about it? Well, what can we do? There's nothing we can do. I'm thinking there's always a solution to everything. So at the time I was grooming to learn my uncle's role to take over the production end and the finance end of the business. And so I said, well, I am going to take over for Dad, and I am going to be the middleman between him, all of the sales reps, marketing, distributors, you name it, and everybody has to go through me to get to him. And then afterwards that night, I cried about it because I'm like, I don't know anything about sales. I don't know anything about marketing. How am I going to do this? Why did they say, yes, that's a good idea? But so at the time, it was like, what you asked for, right? Exactly. But I mean, it all ended up fine. But I will say, when I was in sales, I mean, I was, traveling all the time. I was a road warrior. That's your job in sales. And I was having to, at a young age, sit at the table with men that were much older than me, and there was not women at the table ever. And so I felt that I had to prove myself even more because I was young and a female and inexperienced. And sometimes there'd be comments made. And so I had to overcome a lot of things. But I will say that I learned from them, and it actually led to a bathroom conversation at a Institute Family-Owned Business Board meeting. And then we started the Women in Family Business Group, and how to kind of build your confidence and actually lean in and sit at the table with, both men and women. So I learned a lot from that. And then the last part of that question, at what point did you decide you wanted a leadership coach? And again, we were at a Giffords board meeting, and it became so tactical. It wasn't strategic planning. It wasn't strategic in any sense. We had friends of my uncle and my father at the table, and they're like, well, it's up to Lindsay where she wants to take the business. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, I'm so entrenched in the day-to-day at this point, and we're spending these meetings talking about tactical items. These are meant for strategic items. And so at that point, I said, okay, let me just digest this information and come back to you and let you know where I think we should go from here. And so we went through an entire search and found a strategic planning coach and a leadership coach, because we had a young senior management team, and it's been a blessing. It's been wonderful.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
So early management experience in the family business. I came in, started assistant project manager, and worked my way into being a project manager for commercial projects. And then my father just kind of, and my sisters will know what I'm talking about, he just kind of started like showing up less and less, and eventually on the balcony. And so like, okay, I guess he's not working here anymore. And so kind of started, I think by default, coming to me with questions. And I was in the, project manager, really not much strategy going on with the bigger picture for the business, just trying to deal with, put out the day-to-day fires on a school project we're doing. And, just kind of like felt like things were spinning, and, just kind of a tough situation to be in. And then eventually, well, hold on, let me go back here. So yeah, so I just kind of put my head down, managed my own projects, dealt with the management issues as they came up, but it was just very reactionary. There was no, no planning going on. So an example of a time that things went bad, this isn't a specific example, but this is just kind of like an overall general thing, being in a family business, and probably a lot of people will be able to understand what I'm talking about. But when you're the boss's son, you come in, and whether you're working hard or you're doing a good job or not, you kind of think, do people just think that I'm able to be a manager because I'm the boss's son, or do they see me working hard? Do they think, am I valuable to the company? And it's kind of like it kind of messes with your head. You spend a lot of time thinking about that, and it's not productive at all. That's one thing I've learned working with a leadership coach. And a turning point for me when I was going through that struggle was I talked to my father about it, because in the 80s, my grandfather started the business in the 70s, but my father built the business when he took over in the 80s, and he went through the exact same thing. And he said, just try your hardest. If you know that you're doing your best, the rest will follow, and you'll gain the respect of the people. That was a big turning point for me, where I just said, screw thinking about what I think other people think, and let's just try hard, try to build the business, earn people's respect, and move forward. And that kind of led into what would be better experiences as a manager. It kind of my own personality, the company took on my own personality to kind of built a following of my own people that I've developed, and some of the people that have been with us for a long time earned their respect. And that's kind of when things started moving in the right direction. And that's also when we decided we wanted a leadership coach similar to Lindsay. We're stuck in the day-to-day, and we're like, okay, we're a company of project managers managing projects. There's nothing really moving forward here. We need something different. And my sisters and I got together, talked about it, and what we did is once we found the person we were going to work with, they interviewed 9 members of our company, which ended up becoming our leadership team. And then he presented that interview of kind of where everybody was at and presented that to us. We presented it to my parents, and that's where we got the buy-in to kind of do something different. It wasn't really leadership coaching we were looking for at that point. It was more strategic planning, but that's kind of goes hand in hand, and that's how we made the decision to get a coach.
Great. Good. I'm going to ask Kim to do the next one. Go first on the next one. What was your search process for a leadership coach, and where did you find possible coaches? Did you interview candidates, and what did you ask them? How did you choose the one you were going to work with?
Oh gosh, see, my answer again is so off in another direction, because what happened was I had actually met with Lindsay a few times, and I had met with another member of the board of the IFOB, Teresa Cloutier, a few times, talking about their experiences with leadership coaching, because I was struggling a little bit in my role and where I saw myself going in the role, and how I was going to kind of take on this monster and come up in the shadows of I say, my father. So what actually happened was there was a shakeup in the industry. A gentleman was terminated from another prominent franchise owner in the area. And when he was terminated, we reached out to him and said, hey, how do you feel about being a consultant for us? Because it was a franchise owner that had about double the locations that we did. So my father had reached out to him, kind of looking for him to give some consulting services to us. He came and spoke to us a little bit after his non-compete was over. And we just clicked. We clicked. He'd been in the industry 3 times as long as I had. He had amazing experience. He was very outgoing. He is really good at soft skills, and just he's unbelievably organized. So we started talking, and I think he just latched on to the fact that he really could help me in my role. He was already kind of at my father's level, but he saw possibly his into our organization as possibly someone that could really help me. So we had him on a consulting basis for almost a year, but that entire time as a consultant, he was working with me, and identifying where we could be more effective and more efficient in running directors meetings and things like that after he started coming to these meetings that I'm supposed to be running and saying, hey, have you ever tried this? What if we do this? And those little things have helped our company. I can't even tell you. And it's helped me also because as not a family member and as a third-party consultant at the time, he was finally someone telling me what I wasn't doing right. Because my father wouldn't tell me what I wasn't doing right because he was scared I'd freak out on him. And everybody else was scared to tell me, I guess. So it was great, and I really loved the constructive criticism. So that being said, we actually just extended an offer, and now he's become our chief of staff. So now he's a full-time employee of the Wallet Group as our chief of staff. And so any kind of vision that my father or I have for any part of, we call them silos, loss prevention, HR, accounting, personnel development, all of these different realms of our company. Any vision that I have, he helps me formulate action plans, and he just makes sure that those directors are executing those action plans as desired. So he's been tremendous, and so we weren't really looking for him. He just kind of fell into our lap, and I think eventually I would have sought out a leadership coach such as the one that Lindsay uses. I even saw it in Teresa as another member of the IFOB, which is one of the major reasons why I stay within this organization is the resources has been so helpful for me that that has become the reason why we ended up hiring him full time. So he's found a home with us now.
That's great.
Yeah.
So we actually treated this just like an interview process. I reached out to when I presented the concept to my father and my uncle and got them on board with it. I reached out to the different executive director before Catherine and just asked kind of some input from some other board members and the executive director, do you have any idea or some different names or contacts that you can put me in touch with? And we met with two different, very different style leadership, potential leadership coaches, and to also help us with strategic planning. And we had formal interview, reference checks, you name it, called references that they've worked with in the past, asked what their approach was. One had more of a SWOT analysis approach. We had done that, been there, kind of done that. We wanted to try something new to change it up a bit. So we kind of went in a direction with environmental mapping, which was really eye-opening and fun for our entire family, and by that I mean everyone that works at Giffords, basically. So basically through that process, it landed as, Lindsay, who do you want to work with? And the person that I chose, I felt really could help me gain more confidence as a young female also, and help us through the strategic planning process. Because for you females in the room and men, if you don't understand, at times as a young female, it can be challenging always meeting with men. And in my industry, that's what I do. I am always at a table with men. So I really feel like my coach has really kind of made me feel like my voice deserves to be heard, and I do add value. So I'm not bashful at meetings anymore. I speak right up.
Lindsay, who was involved with the interview process?
It was my father, my uncle, and myself, and then in the second phase, we also involved a couple other family members, our senior managers, just to kind of get a feel for their input and thoughts, because they would also be sitting at the table. Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we weren't really looking for a coach. It was just, a hunger for structure and some sort of strategy, and that particular person ended up, coaching became part of that with them, starting with me, and now our other managers work with them as well. So we had interviewed a couple of people, but we're lucky. We have a distant cousin, because I've told this joke before. We have a cousin for everything. But we have a distant cousin who's not a distant cousin, but a cousin removed, who is a business consultant and works all over the country and for some big corporations, nationally and internationally. Lives here, and we talked to him, and he had actually done a little bit with my father probably 10 or 11 years ago. Just kind of scratched the surface of coaching for him, and we really wanted to create some sort of strategic business plan and take our company to the next level and into a different direction. And him knowing the history of our company and our comfort with him, it became a good choice for us. We've been doing it about 3 years now, and like I said, it's turned into he's coaching our other managers, and now I've been going through the process for about 3 years, and now he's coaching me on how to coach our other leaders, and so that's kind of like the progression it's been, and it's been helpful. It's been a great experience, and I can't recommend it enough for people to do it.
Thanks.
My process was super easy. We had one guy, and he is here today. He's the man with the hat, Vince Pilot of the Vinci Consulting, and it was a really easy process because Vince knew Steve Cody through being, I think they were on an economics council together in Mount Washington Valley area, and Vince kind of engaged in some conversations with Steve. I think knowing they were also active on social media and LinkedIn, and Vince made some really just started talking with Steve that I think that it could add some value to your new leadership team, and gave Steve some information, which Steve then brought back to get buy-in again from Balcony Bill, and then Vince also came and I believe met with my father as well and Steve. And I remember my dad was like, "What do you want me to do, Vince? How can I help?" Because he was all excited. He wanted to start doing the work, and Vince is the one I owe all the credit to, because he said, "Your job is to be on the balcony. That's your job, and that's where I think you ought to be." And so it took some time, I will say, for him to get used to that role. But when I hear other people's stories, I'm very fortunate, because my dad, he's learned to bite his tongue now and not say things, which I know in like management meetings that we have, he used to run them. Now I do. And he sits there very patiently and he doesn't say a word, not a word, maybe a word here and there, but a little one. And so he's on balcony, and Vince, I think what was great about Vince is that he so passionate. If you talk to the man, you'll learn that he's very passionate about what he does. And what we really struck a chord with us is that his whole program is to focus on developing your strengths. And he does that through like 360 evaluations, which we all did on ourselves, which basically let us know we all got 360s reports back, which told us which behavioral competencies we scored high in. So for me, for example, mine came back saying that I scored high in organizational awareness. This is how I scored. I might have been like a 5 on a scale of 1 to 7. We want to get you to a 7, Dottie. And through 12 weeks of intense kind of classroom structure where we met every other week, we worked on a number of different modules. And by the end of that 12 weeks, we kind of re-scored ourselves, and my 5 now became a 7 in organizational awareness. Steve would have learned, what his behavioral competencies would have been leading or impact and influence. Jim, no shocker, Jim was all about building relationships. and networking. So we got that information back and we knew what our strengths were, and it was all about focusing on developing those strengths, not the weaknesses. And I think that's a key piece of coaching.
That's great. Well, and in the interest of full disclosure, because we weren't going to mention names,
Oh, I
but
know.
that's all right. No, that's all right. There are brochures out on the registration table. Catherine encouraged people that are doing leadership coaching to put their information out there, and they're also on the website that are members, right? And then on the website, people that are doing leadership coaching are listed as such. So, do you have a question?
No.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Obviously, we're not going to do the breakout sessions, and we're running a little close now on even the question and answers. So, the next question that I had was, what have you gained from your relationship with your coach, both personally and professionally? And so we can either ask that, and I was going to have Joe start, or if people have questions at this point, why don't we ask some of those, and if not, then we'll go back to that question. Anybody have anything they want to ask them?
I have more of a comment. I just wanted to say, if anybody's thinking about leadership coaching, the hardest thing that I've ever been through, maybe not just professionally, but just ever, is the 360 feedback. But it really like rips you apart and then builds you back up. I don't suggest it. That's like, it's really hard.
We've had a lot of discussion in the peer advisory groups about the 360 profile, and it is interesting to see how it affects everyone. But obviously, a positive tool in the long run.
The question, and we don't get to answer it, but what I'm curious is, for all of them, where do they see their organization and themselves 5 years from now?
It is a good one. So, do we want to talk about the relationship with the coach, or do we want to talk about?
I'm excited to answer any questions of the audience.
Okay.
I mean,
Great.
in my opinion, because I think it would be really beneficial to have some interaction with people that are here. I can go ahead and start with. I'm sorry.
Vince.
You're Vince. Okay, so you're Vince. So I actually just recently had a meeting with my said leadership coach, now chief of staff, about this exact question. And as I'm having very similar experiences that these wonderful people are having, where I've got my father stepping back a little more every day, whether it's that he gets to do what he would rather do in his spare time, or focus on areas of the business that he just wants to focus on, and then the rest of it's my problem. Or he just joined the board of directors at Southern New Hampshire University, does a lot of work with his alma mater, that kind of stuff. That our whole focus right now of the company is accepting change. And I recently joined a subcommittee with Dr. Brands. It's called the People Systems Subcommittee. And we put on a big summit every year, and we're focusing on change. And I'm not saying just the change of our organization, but for everybody, it's really hard to accept change, whether it's change in policy, change in the way that we do our operations, new LTOs coming in, or changing even just the structure of how we take orders now because the industry's changing, that kind of thing. It's really important. And for me, what I would like to do within the next 5 years is really become someone that's as inspirational as my father's been for the organization in itself. People have a lot of respect for him and what he's built from the ground up, from having absolutely nothing and one store taken by eminent domain into having what he's got now. People have a lot of respect for that. I'd really like to be able to use the inspiration that I'm gathering because people are excited for the change. How does that embody my role in the organization, and how can I carry that forward? So it's changing the way that operations runs, but it's also changing the communications between departments And it's also providing opportunity continuously, whether it's going further into Dunkin' Donuts, but we're looking at other concepts, or, you know, I've got my dream of a wine bar that's on the side. But we want to take the organization in another direction that allows opportunity for people that want to try something different. And I want to be able to provide that. So that in itself is a feat, because I've got partners and we all have to be on the same page. A lot of those people have been working with my father for 15 plus years. So getting everybody on that same page to go in that similar direction is where we're heading, and that's where I'd like to see us in 5 years.
And before we do the others, is there anyone else that's got a question that they want to ask of any particular panelists? Yes, Steve.
As a leader, how do you know when to engage those that are working with you or for you? You know, full engagement or mandate, being the extremes.
I can go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So my approach, whether that's right or wrong, has been, and this is been through leadership coaching, is I engage others when I need buy-in on a decision that's going to be made. So for example, we have set up a what we call a steering committee, which is our senior managers. We meet every other week. Sometimes it's just one time a month. And we created kind of 3 to 5 ongoing focus areas that we need. And we've set up what we call task forces. And those have been able to allow everyone, any family member, last name or not, within our company to volunteer to be on a task force. So it could be something like, we want to increase communication within Giffords. What are your ideas that you have to increase communication? Because that has been one thing at Giffords. My uncle and father have been very close, tight-lipped. People only need to know when they need to know, and it's none of their business. That's just how they ran the company, which is fine. It's fine. It worked for them. That's not my style. So I feel like more feedback that's just how I operate. So they actually, through that process, they determined that why doesn't Giffords have an intranet, an internal communication? It's very hard for folks at our 5 ice cream stands to know what we're doing at the main office or on sales to know what we're doing. So we're working with a company that Dottie recommended, and we're getting ready to launch it to the whole organization in November. So again, to get the buy-in, it was through the task force that initially they developed the idea, and then it's just, you know, the pats on the back. We keep mentioning this task force during this launch process to our department heads, and so our department heads are now behind it, which then trickles down, if you will, to the others for the excitement. So I feel like it depends on what it is. If it's something that I needed buy-in for, you know, the more the merrier, you know, to get their input. But that's just my side.
That's great. Any family business member that has a question for the panel? We haven't heard from too many tonight. Now's your chance.
John,
Well, since we're almost out of time, when I was kind of prepping for this whole thing, there was 2 points that I wanted to get across, so I guess I could jump into that. So one, seeking advice, if someone's seeking professional development and seeking a coach, you have to be humble and you have to be willing to kind of say, oh, I'm bad at that, and not get defensive about it and try to, you know, well, that's because of this. You got to really take a look at yourself, and it's harder than your regular job, working with leadership coach, especially at first. But it's so valuable, and it gives you such a different perspective that you wouldn't be able to get without having, you know, conversations with somebody who does that professionally. And, you know, you develop yourself, And, I've read a thing that the leadership coach gave me. It starts with you. And the more you develop yourself, like the better you are yourself, the better the people that you lead are. And then, the better your company is. It sounds simple, but that's how it works. And I've seen it with our company. And then the other thing I wanted to say, for a family business like ours, we don't have a board of directors at this point. And I'm just kind of like out there running the business and, with my sisters, and my mom's there. My dad comes in once in a while. We got 50 employees. And, so it's like, okay. And so having the coach, there's a lot of things going on in my mind, or there's a lot of times where there's going to be you got a confrontation amongst employees, and you're like, should they say anything? Should I see if it goes away? And it's not going to go away. And having that coach is like, once I tell him something, that's like jumping off the cliff. You're like, okay, now I'm going to have to talk to these people. We're going to move on with this idea. And, it's not, you're not just doing it by yourself. You're having a conversation with a professional, and you're getting some feedback. You're getting someone who's seen probably what you're dealing with, in other businesses. And it's been invaluable for our business. And I think it's, we haven't made all the right decisions, but we've seen the bottom line grow. We've seen our top line grow. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. And it's kind of a weird investment if you haven't done it before, because you shell out, it's not cheap. You shell out the money, and you're not getting a thing back. And, but if you work it, if you stay true to it, if you work it, if you're patient, it does pay off. And now actually talking to everybody else here, I feel even better about it, because it sounds like it works well.
Well, and as far as common themes go, obviously, we were hearing about health issues a couple of times that triggered the push towards this. That also, unfortunately, happens a lot with succession planning. And the best advice to families that aren't doing leadership coaching or don't have a succession plan is do it before the crisis occurs, because you can think a lot clearer and pull in your resources and interview folks and do all the things that need to be done on the front end. But obviously, health issues are a good reason to speed things up, as we say. Having a short-term hire is another alternative that Kim mentioned, and I think that's kind of a nice way to go into a relationship with someone, just to make sure that it's a good fit for everyone, because no matter how much interviewing you do, you just never quite know what that chemistry is going to be like. And as I said on the front end, one size does not fit all. And you have to know yourself pretty well. Yes.
I think it's sort of a question / comment. I know, like for us, one thing with leadership coach, which has been great, is because we're in different offices and all over the place, we don't all get together as a management team as well. And so that's helped or forced us to get together. And I don't know if you, maybe other panelists, you guys, Kim, Lindsay, and Joe, seen the same with that too. It sort of helps. I don't say force the hand, but it helps you have a time where the management team gets together.
That's why we hired him as the chief of staff. Now he's everybody's leadership coach, and he made sure we all get together. We're all communicating.
Yeah, sure. There was one thing I wanted to say, because I had 3 specific kind of pearls of wisdom, as my father said, and that we gained specifically through our work with our coach. And I'm all about imparting knowledge, but 3 things that we've taken away that have been really helpful. One, our company has instituted quarterly roundtables, what we refer to it as, and I've got number 9 tomorrow in York. So on a quarterly basis, Steve Cody and myself and Jim, when he can fit them, he tries to go the ones he can. We meet with all 9 of our agency locations, and all of our staff, and we talk about leadership action items that we're working on, organizational action items that we're working on. We have this portion called the Culture Shop Round, where I share portions of the best places to work in Maine survey that we've taken 2 years now. I share, I'll highlight a concentration on an area that we didn't do as well. And I ask for their feedback. I ask, how can we do better? How can we improve pay and benefits? What do you think? What do you have to say? So we're about almost 2 years into them, and it's been a complete game changer for us, because our employees know it's transparency. They know we're sharing financials with them now, things we never used to do. So they know exactly what's going on in the company. No surprises. So that's been a huge game changer. The other thing that I wanted to say is we learned about the art of how to give an ongoing regard. An ongoing regard is basically how to show appreciation. And it's another way you can think of it is a thank you note on steroids. That's how I remember it. Everyone here knows about it because I mentioned it to them. And what it is just literally thanking people, thanking your coworkers, thanking relationships you have with your company partners, your vendors, you can take it into your personal world and personal relationships that you have. Best practice would tell you that it has to be a handwritten thank you note, mailed to the person's residence. That's the goal. Personal handwritten thank you note mailed to. So in this case, what we try to do is we write personal handwritten thank you notes and we mail them to our employees' houses so that they get them at home. And I can't tell you how invaluable that has been because they now know about the concept of ongoing regard. They are practicing it themselves. The other day, I opened up my mail. I had a handwritten thank you note from one of my coworkers who thanked me for promoting her to this term, which we called an office coach. And handwritten thank you note. So now we're paying it forward, and she's practicing it. So that was the art of an ongoing regard. And number 3, talent evaluation. I can't say how strongly I recommend this. Looking at who you have on staff and where they fit in. There's this whole thing, it's called the 9-box grid. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, but it's a 9-box, and you're basically identifying who the high performers, highly motivated, high-performing employees are, and you rank everyone in your company fits into one of those 9 boxes. And the goal is to get everyone into that upper right box, which is highly performing, highly motivated. So that's the goal. So we went through that process, again, with our coach, and we identified those star performers who we call our apostles. And those apostles are the ones that you need to keep recognizing and through promotions and whatnot, because they're the ones they're your apostles. You don't want to lose those employees. For the people in the other 8 boxes, though, you want to coach them up so that you can get them up into that next box. So if they're a low performer, low motivation, you want to get them up into that next level tier. So that whole process for us has been a complete game changer and very invaluable because now we know who the high performers are. We're continually coaching them. And we do that through things like check-ins, weekly check-ins. Best practice would say that you should check in with every one of your employees on a weekly basis for 15 minutes, no less. 15 minutes. So that's kind of a goal that we're working on too. And ours right now are probably about a bi-weekly. We meet with them bi-weekly to give them real-time feedback because that's what employees want. They want real-time feedback and they want to be recognized. They want recognition. We've done motivational surveys too with our staff. And the common theme in all 9 of our offices is that recognition was the lowest score for us, recognition. So in particular, what we asked them is in the last 7 days, have you been recognized by your boss? And we weren't doing that enough. So we know we have a very clear idea as to where we're at with recognition in 9 offices. And now we are continually giving ongoing regards, recognitions, check-ins, and we're developing the apostles.
Yes.
So that box that you talked about, do you actually have that grid for every employee, and does every employee kind of know where they fit?
No, so we have to be careful about that, obviously. Because can you imagine leaving a piece of paper on your desk that has a quadrant with where everybody fits?
That's what
Because we have some outliers. We have a couple that aren't even, we identified, they don't even fit in the 9 box. They're out on an island unto themselves called outlier. So you don't want them to find that. Yes.
So how does that fit with the value of transparency?
That's a good question. So for us right now, what we're doing is we are again trying to recognize. So what we did is we picked 4 apostles and we found a way to recognize them to the whole company. That's that transparency piece. So what we did is we created a new position called an office coach. We use office coach, not office manager, because there's a big difference between a coach and a manager. You want to be a coach and you want to strive to have everybody become a coach. So we created the position called office coach. We chose 4 of our apostles and we put that all over our intranets. Steve and I are finishing up our 3rd quarter roundtables. We are again talking about the role of the office coach, so everybody knows what it is. And the other thing we're giving these apostles, office coaches, is access to our coach. So they are now going through the same 12-week leadership training that my management team went through as professional development for them.
And that sounds really great in terms of movement from where you work to where you're going. So are those 4 apostles aware of the 9 boxes?
At this point, so I don't believe they're aware of the 9 boxes.
There are certain things you can't be transparent.
Yeah, there are certain things, I can't say, hey, we have to be very careful about it.
They can't be transparent without talking about a grid. I mean, through employee evaluations and leadership coaching or whatever. So, I mean, I think there's a big difference between being
too transparent
and
because I had to be careful wording it today. I got asked that question. I was talking about the role of our office coaches, and one employee said, "How'd you choose them?" I don't think, well, they fit into a 9 box. Guess where you were? You were there. I think we're gonna have to wrap it up. One more question.
Observation is when your whole approach to transparency from where you work to where you're going, you're doing great stuff.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So you can see why I'm so inspired by these people and all the groups that we have and all the members. There are others in the audience, and you're all included in that. It's any topic we could pick. I think we could have some pretty stimulating conversation. This is the future, and it's the future of family business. It's the future of Maine, and they're just wonderful young people, and I'm grateful for my relationship with them. They inspire me every single day, and I'm glad that we have this opportunity to share some of these ideas.
Thank you, Pamela. I echo that too, because I have found I've been here for 2 years, and this is the magic of the Institute, is the very open and honest sharing from, family businesses and people who are working and trying to succeed. And, we all have families, we all know what that's like, and we work in business with them. It is good and bad, and challenging, and thank you for giving us your wonderful insights. So thank you all very much for coming, and we hope to see you on November 7th at the Chalmers for our Everything Nice, Sugar and Spice, and find out more about what Chalmers is doing. So thank you. Thank you all.